At the New Jersey SBDC Network, our mission is simple: to help businesses grow and succeed. Our consulting, training, and information services make it easier for businesses to reach their potential. Whether you're currently in operation or just starting out, we have the right tools, resources, and expertise to help you succeed. Visit us online to get started on your path to success today.
A pleasant good afternoon to everyone. My name is Takoa Bell. I am an event coordinator for the NJSBDC at Rutgers-Newark. And on behalf of Dr. Tendai Ndoro, the regional director, I would like to welcome you all to our Creating Your Digital Marketing Plan webinar. For those of you here that are unfamiliar with the SBDC, it stands for Small Business Development Centers. And here at the New Jersey Small Business Development Centers at Rutgers-Newark, we serve as the premier provider of business training and technical assistance services to establish small businesses, startups, and as well as to entrepreneurs. We are one of 12 centers in the NJSBDC network, and we service those in Essex County. Our center is hosted by the Rutgers Business School and funded through a partnership agreement between the Small Business Administration, Rutgers University, and the New Jersey Business Action Center. Our mission is to help entrepreneurs as well as business owners start and grow sustainable, successful businesses through the delivery of one-on-one business consulting, training, and technical assistance programs. Now, these services are provided to you at no cost and are paid for by your tax dollars. If you or your business is located in Essex County, our website is www.rnsbdc.com. And on the top right-hand corner of our site, we have a button labeled Request Counseling. And clicking on that button will lead you to fill out the information you are seeking for your business. And within 24 to 48 business hours, a consultant will reach out to you for an assessment. And for those of you here that are not in Essex County, our headquarters website is www.njsbdc.com. And on that website, you can type in your county and it will refer you to your local SBDC office. For the benefit of everyone attending today's webinar, we have your audio muted at the moment. We will be taking questions via the chat feature and the Q&A feature here on Zoom. So feel free to ask and post your questions, and we will do our best to respond during or at the end of the webinar. A copy of the presentation slides, along with a video recording of this webinar, will be emailed to you within 48 to 72 hours. So you can always refer to this information long after the webinar has ended. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you our presenter for today's webinar, Cecilia Henderson. Cecilia is the CEO and owner of WSI Marketing Edge and is an SBDC consultant here at the NJSBDC at Rutgers-Newark in the areas of digital marketing, social media, and brand development. And now, without further ado, I will turn today's presentation over to Cecilia.
Thank you, Takoa. Glad to have the opportunity to talk to the group today about something that is close to my heart, which is having a plan and creating, in particular, a marketing plan. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, and I'm also going to turn off my camera. It will give me more bandwidth and allow me to hopefully not have any interference. So we're going to focus on how we get from where we are to where we want to be. That's what a plan does for us. This is just a little bit about my background, and it'll be in the materials, but I've spent quite a bit of time doing marketing planning because I've been a marketer for a good number of years. And clearly we have situations where we need to respond to things that are unanticipated, but for the general day-to-day, it's always best to have a plan. For those of us who run small businesses, I think about the scenario in which you have so many things to do and you're just not sure that we're doing the right thing. Being able to go back to the plan that you made and check your activities against that plan can really be a relief, and it can also be a redirector for you. You may also see things as you're checking it throughout the year that just don't make sense based on what you know now. Plans are not written in stone. They're written on paper with ink. They can be erased, and that's basically what you do. But it's better to have a plan than not to have a plan. So what we're going to talk about is what that role of the plan is, which I've already begun to speak about. We're going to talk about the key topics that are normally included in a plan. I'll cover some of the building blocks of creating a plan and examples of the thought process that you want to go through. And then I'll talk about key metrics for each of the major digital components that would be in your plan. When we talk about a digital marketing plan, it's important to talk about what digital marketing is. Quite frankly, when I think of a digital marketing plan, I think of it as a marketing plan, not just a digital plan. And in this day and age, digital is a huge component of what is done in some instances, depending on the industry and your particular affinities and the efficacy of what you've been doing. Your digital marketing could be the only aspect of your plan. There might be no print activity, for example. But digital marketing in and of itself is leveraging the tools of the internet to get your message to your target audience. That would mean, in particular, your website, your social media, your email, any kind of advertising you're doing, whether it's on Google or even on social media. When we think about marketing channels, there are channels that are digital and there are channels that we would consider more traditional. So a traditional channel would be print, so a brochure, mail, direct mail that goes to someone's home, journal ads, magazine ads, telemarketing, sales calls, in person. Those would be traditional marketing strategies. They can be supplemented with what goes on in the digital world. Digitally, we're talking about, as I mentioned before, your website, your social media, your email, and again, any advertising, paid advertising that you might be doing. So different channels to reach people, and you can have those channels directed at multiple different audiences, but you want to reinforce the message within those channels. So why would you have a digital marketing plan? It's because it helps you think about your business. It clarifies your goals, your objectives. It really tests the use of your own resources. In other words, your time, the money, the people within your organization, because you can create a plan. And then when you step back and you realize, I don't really have the staff to actually execute that, I'm going to have to make some priorities. Also, we talk about improving the communication about what you do. So if you do work with other people, having that plan and having it down on paper helps you to be able to communicate it to the rest of your team. It's going to guide and direct their activities and support goal setting. And then you can track the effectiveness of your activities overall versus the plan. So where do you start? If you do a search for marketing plans in general, you are going to find that there is no lacking for templates for marketing plan. And I'm giving you several places that you can go to get just templates. These are just structures that you start to complete in order to have a plan. So we're not really going to talk about, okay, I think it should be this format and all these things should be indented and things like that. I'm really talking about the content, the pieces. But essentially, these templates are really a checklist of topics to cover. And you have to understand that not everything in that template might be relevant to your business. It may depend on whether you are B2B, in other words, you're marketing to other businesses, or whether you're B2C, you're marketing to end user customers, or you have a store. So you may have different aspects of the marketing mix that you're going to use in order to reach your client. The plan really exists to serve you, the business owner. You don't have to fill out everything just because the paper says that it's there. So you just need to use your executive capabilities to decide what makes sense. What do you need in order to get this marketing plan done? You need time. What you need to get it done is time. And we're not saying that it takes a year to do a marketing plan, but there is a planning process that you go through. And sometimes that is what takes the time. It's not long to write a paragraph, but to put the content that you're going to be writing into that paragraph, you may have to do a little bit of research, a little bit of thinking, talking to other people. All of that could take time. It also takes focus. So if you are doing a marketing plan, I know that you're running your business, but you want to be, when you're not doing the day-to-day stuff of your business and you have the opportunity to do the other things that make your business better, this should be the main thing that you're doing when it's planning time, because it enables your mind to just kind of ruminate. I mean, it really also depends on how you think, but I find that when I focus and I say, okay, all right, every day I'm going to spend some time on this particular objective, I'm able to take it further. I'm able to think about it and enhance the work product even more. So that's why focus has some benefit here. And then the other thing that's beneficial when you're creating a marketing plan is actually getting a second opinion. Oftentimes, when you talk to yourself, everything that you say to yourself sounds great. And, and it should, that's good self-esteem. But we also have to be humble and realize that perhaps we don't have all of the perspective that we think we have. And so what that means is that, sometimes it helps to work with a mentor, a trusted advisor. This is why some people even outsource the entire process of doing the marketing plan. So you're not really, a third party, for example, is not wedded to all of the traditional things that you have done for years and years, may see things differently and may have different recommendations that are beneficial to the business. So we all know that we can have our own blind spots, and that's why a second opinion or having a mentor or having a third party is beneficial. So now we talked about time, we talked about focus, we talked about perhaps having somebody else that you can just think about it as somebody to bounce ideas off of, for example. What are the components of the marketing plan? There are classic sections, and anywhere that I've ever worked for, a couple of decades or more will all have these pieces in their plan. Some more blown out or more detailed than others, but they're all there because this is level setting on why the plan is going to look the way it looks. So, what is the mission statement for your business? What's your vision for your business? I mean, if you look 5 years down the road, what does it look like? Because your plan should be moving you in that direction. So that's why you have that vision. What are the values that are most important to you? Because that may drive what your tactics are that you use to execute your plan. Really being able to describe what business you're in. And when you say what business you're in, you're talking about benefits to the customer, the product you provide, all of that stuff. And of course, there's the situation analysis, understanding your strengths and weaknesses as a business and the opportunities and threats that are out there in the environment that will either negatively or favorably impact you. Another key segment of the plan is the target market, really understanding who it is you're speaking to. We don't understand who we're talking to and we're talking to the wrong person, then your messaging will fall on deaf ears, or it will fall wrongly to your target audience, and they will not see themselves as the person that is being spoken to and ignore it. So segmentation is key. What are your market segments? And then can you put together almost an avatar for each one of those segments? It's called a buyer persona, but in ad agency language, a persona is a person that represents a segment. And so when I'm creating a brochure or I'm creating an email campaign to go to that segment, I'm thinking of that person and I'm thinking about, I've given her a name, she's got a gender, she's got an age, she's got particular concerns. And the more human that segment is to me, the better I can communicate to that segment. The other piece is understanding who your competitors are. Who else could replace you in going after that particular segment? That's key. The marketing strategy is a big piece of this, and this is what we used to call the 4 Ps, even though there's a D. The product. So what is the product that you're selling? What's your pricing? What are your promotional deals? How are you getting that product to market, which is distribution? The other term for that is place. How are you placing this in the marketplace? And when we talk about promotion, that's where you get into tactical planning as well. And then there's always goals and objectives. Why are you doing this? Remember that vision. In order to get to that vision of where you want to be in 5 years, you have milestones. And so you break those down into a further detail, and you get to annual goals and objectives. Some of them are financial, some of them are organizational, and they can be broken down even further. So if you know that I need to have X number of leads and convert X number of those into sales, and each sale is worth X number of dollars, that gives you your revenue. Obviously, when it comes to goal setting, you've probably all heard that term SMART: specific goal that is measurable, that is actually achievable, that is relevant to the success. So in this case, relevant to that vision that you have. And that is time bound. And particularly with a marketing plan, generally we think of a year time frame. But as I said, we can make changes as we need to. So time bound is though important when it comes to goal setting. When are you going to get this done is really the question. So just going back to those classic marketing 4 Ps, 3 Ps and a D, the promotion aspect is where the tactical plan falls out. And that's going to be of the greatest interest from a marketing perspective. This is where you have your key initiatives and you're looking at them in light of the different segments that you have. So you may have a product or a service that you offer to individuals, that you offer to organizations of a certain type, and that you offer to municipalities. Each one of those types of clients is a segment, and they need to be potentially addressed differently. And the most important part of the plan is having a budget. If you don't have a budget, you need to plan for the expenditures that you're going to make. Think of them as an investment in your business. But to not have a budget as part of your business to do marketing suggests that we're not really ready to invest in the business. So just like we would have a plan and start to create a budget so that we can take a vacation, we should be creating a budget so that we could market our business. So yeah, we have a budget, we have all these pieces. I now know what the structure is. I've got a list. And again, you can see templates, which will give you formatting, but essentially it's a checklist of these types of items. So why don't we just fill out the form and get it done? And I think, of course, that's where we start. But the question is, do you know everything that you need to know in order to do this? So what do you need to know? You need to know the things that you're going to fill this out with, why you're in business, which mission, vision, values, who your clients are, which is, your segments, your demographics, what are their interests and concerns? What are the trends that are going on with them? What your product is and how it's different from other products out there, and how customers actually define your product, not how you define it. What problems you solve. So what is the customer actually looking for? What sparks them to go in the buyer journey for what it is you have to offer? And then what's your marketing infrastructure? What's your baseline status? I mean, do you have a digital footprint, or are you in the build mode? Are you in the optimization mode? Are you in enhancement? You've done all the basic stuff. Now we can go for more bells and whistles. We also want to know about your competitors, who they are and how they compete. What are the trends going on with them and how they might impact how they do business and how you do business. Environmental trends, regulatory trends, all of these are externalities that can impact your business. Obviously, environmental trend would have to do with pandemic, regulatory trends, example, different certifications or laws that you need to comply with in order to do what it is you do. So these things don't, they're not necessarily things that you know fully. You can make things up, but there might be things that you need to validate. And we'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. When it comes to the business mission, you're essentially trying to crystallize what your business does and how it helps people. The more clear you can be with this, the better in the longer term. So what do you do? How do you do it and why? How do you differentiate yourself from your competitors? And then what do you want someone to say about what you do? When you start to think about that, that really helps you position your business, and it helps you, again, understand who you, am I going to the right person to get this kind of result? And also, am I doing the right things? And am I communicating the right things about my business? It needs to be clear and simple. It doesn't have to be 10 pages. It could be like a paragraph. But remember, this is something that can always be refined. If you're here and you're a business owner, you own this, you can make changes to it. So let's not be captive to something that we decided 5 years ago that may not be relevant or may not be really your vision. Now, there's some building blocks that will help you to be able to answer these questions with a better degree of certainty than if you just kind of make it up and ideate on your own. Some of these things are doing market research, doing some competitive analysis, seeing what you can find out about pricing, doing that strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities exercise, and creating a persona. These are kind of basic building blocks. And these things will often happen before we've ever started to write anything about what our strategy is. We're just gathering information so that we can truly understand the landscape of our business. So if you're a consultant, who are all the other people that are doing what you're doing? How do they differentiate themselves? And that may take a little bit of digging. It's just not something that you may know off the top of your head. So I want to talk a little bit about market research, and the reason being that, again, you need to test your assumptions, especially for those of us who are singlepreneurs or small businesses, and we may not be talking to other people to confirm what we're thinking. It is probably worth trying a bit. So you want to test your assumptions around your customers, your competitors, your pricing strategy, or pricing in general when it comes to your industry, customer needs, and the environment. These are all areas that you can be doing some level of market research. And I would say that, yes, you could say I'm going to do market research today, but if you're thinking like this all the time, you can be collecting this type of information all the time. Any kind of interaction that you have is an opportunity to gather data about what's going on. So often though, I hear, oh, well, I really don't collect data. I'm not like some Fortune 500 company. We don't go out and do focus groups. I don't have, data around sales and things like that. But then you realize, well, maybe you do, because there is some aspect of customer service. What are your customer interactions like? You may have somebody who answers the phone. They may be a source of information for you. What about any kind of customer relationship management tool that you might be using? HubSpot or anything that you're using to document interactions with ongoing clients that you have. What are the frequently asked questions that come in, perhaps off of your website, or what are people calling you about the most? Obviously, you can go to third parties like the library, you can do internet research, you can look at an extreme amount of census data. If you're trying to target a particular area, you can find out demographics. There are publicly available resources around businesses in general. So our friend Mr. Google or Mrs. Google is great for us. But the other thing that you can do is you can also talk to your customers or people that you think might be a customer for you one day. And you talk to one or two, you can talk to 10, you can talk to 20. At some point, you'll start to hear trends. And when you start to hear things repeated, they're real. And, the frequency that you hear them repeated tells you perhaps how influential those things are, or whether or not you're dealing with different segments within your customer. So once you've done this type of thing, you just keep a running summary of, well, what are your key takeaways? What is your summary of what you've learned? Now, sometimes people are at the very beginning stages of their business, and oftentimes participants in this particular session don't really have customers yet. So what if you are in business and you don't really have any customers? Well, what I would recommend is that you find people that you think would be customers or decision makers and request to speak with them. You can find them through networking, through social media like LinkedIn. If they happen to have certain types of jobs, you might be able to network into somebody that that does something like this. But when you approach people like this, you need to set the expectation that you're not going to sell them anything. You're not coming to them because they are a customer of yours or you want them to be a customer. You're going to them because you would like to find out some things about the market that they're in. And you're going to go to them with a discussion guide that you created, basically a list of things that you want to talk to them about that you think they could help you with. And if they can't help you, perhaps they can recommend somebody else for you to talk to who might be able to help you. And if you say, hey, I'd just like to talk to you for about 10 or 15 minutes or 15 or 20 minutes, I'm not going to sell you anything, but I just have some questions. I'm really just trying to figure out, if I were going to do this, how would I do this effectively? How could I meet your requirements and exceed them? And then if you say that it's going to be 15 to 20 minutes, don't take a minute longer. And of course, thank them. So there are ways to get to people, even if you don't have a customer today. I mean, and this could be, I'm going to open a hair salon. I need to know clients. I mean, it might be easier to find just general clients for something like that. In other areas where it's B2B, you may have to do a little bit more searching or networking to get to that target that you're looking for. So that's the market research side of things, just trying as much as you can to validate your assumptions around what's going on in that marketplace, trends that might impact you. The next thing you're going to try to do, of course, is a competitive analysis. What is going on with your competitors for each line of business? So who are the other options aside from you for each line of business or product type or service offering that you have? Who are you going to be compared to? What's the point of differentiation, and how are you going to address that particular point of differentiation within your own? What's an assessment when it comes to the SWOT, which is strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats? And we'll talk about that in 2 seconds. And you want to assess their digital footprint because it's a digital marketing plan. Is it a situation where everyone has an e-commerce site and you don't? Is it a situation where everybody has a lot of video and you don't? But you can take a look at their digital footprint, assess the quality, assess their capabilities, the level of activity that they've got on social media. Are they doing anything to bring clients in through their social media? And are they doing any advertising? You can find out things like that, or you can work with people who can find out for you. So this is the competitive framework where you would essentially lay out your company and you say, here's what I offer. Here's what my competitor 1, competitor 2, competitor 3 offers. What's their competitive advantage? Who are they targeting? So somebody may have the same product that you have or the same service, but instead of going after the kinds of clients you go after, they go after a totally different type of client. That's fine. Your price, product, promotion, and distribution. These are the 4 Ps, the big part of the marketing strategy. You can lay this out and understand how you differentiate from your competitors. And this can be a fairly time-consuming activity if you're, depending on the industry you're in and the maturity of your business. There is also the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, which I mentioned. You can do this for yourself, but you can also do this for other people. It'll give you a sense of confidence or give you an idea of where you might want to bolster your activities in order to be more favorably compared to one of your competitors. And then, of course, you can look at the digital side of things. What's going on the website, as we said, social media, their advertising, are they doing email campaigns, things like that. Obviously, you can do a lot of different types of assessments. I'm not going to go through all of this with you because you can, pick this up, but you can look at different attributes and rank them on a scale of 1 to 5 and see who is best at this and whether you are best in class or whether you're lagging behind and need to do some things to catch up. Obviously, pricing is key. You would look at each kind of offering that you have, because perhaps you have offerings that are at different price points for certain reasons. So take a look at your pricing, understand what your competitive pricing is like. And then here's where we get to the SWOT. And the reason why I want to just spend a moment on this is just to highlight strengths and weaknesses are things that are inherent to your own business or yourself. So a strength is something about the size of the staff that you have. A weakness could be that you don't cover a certain region. An opportunity might be that there is a new trend in the marketplace, or that there is new regulation requiring everybody use your product. A threat is external as well. A threat is things like regulations that require an investment on your, you need to need to offer everyone a mask who comes into the company. So what does that mean? I have a cost line that I didn't have before. That could be considered a threat. It's not a positive, let's just put it that way, but it's external to your company. So this is where you start to look at, well, what are the other things that we need to be worried about? So as a marketer, I always joke that we spend a lot of time thinking about the things that we need to worry about. So we have a plan, but is something going to mess with our plan? And that's what all the market research is about. That's what validating our assumptions is about. And then looking at what's going on around us and beside us. That is what that is about. So now the other piece that we talked about is knowing who you're talking to, knowing the persona or the image of the individual or the avatar that represents each key segment of your customer base. It should be, in a perfect world, highly detailed. And the benefits of this is, again, clarity. So let's say you're a singlepreneur, but you've got somebody who is writing copy for you that you're going to use in your social media. If they don't understand who you're trying to target, and they're not writing to the same person you're writing to, there's a problem. So we're looking for clarity, so that it helps your communications, and then it supports your strategy execution. So a practical example. This is a beauty salon that's been in business for 3 years. They offer a variety of typical services. And so they have different lines of business, and they've been through the process of looking at their mission, their mission and their vision. So their mission is providing beauty and wellness services. They want to have people leaving beautiful and more peaceful than when they leave than when they come in. So their vision is this oasis of calm and beauty, providing refuge to their clients. And yes, you're going to see this description. I mean, there's an emotional component to your vision for your business. So we talked about the fact that they had multiple offices offerings. So that is lines of business. So in it here, it's hair, it's makeup, it's nails, it's massage. And you can create a plan, a strategic objective of, how do I plan to support each line of business? So for hair, it could be, I'm going to get more business from the local companies that have offices in the area. But I also know that I have a local client base. These are people who live in the area. So we want to maintain our local client business, but we also want to get more business from new companies that have moved into the area. For makeup, there are different ways that they plan to support that makeup business. Nails, similar. It's not core, but it's an upsell. So while you're here, why don't you get your nails done? That's what an upsell is. Or, gee, I didn't know you had that. Next time I will schedule to get my nails done. That's an upsell. Massage, same thing. Maybe it's not core, but the person is there and someone sees somebody else getting massage and they get one too. Or maybe there's an event and as part of the whole package, everybody gets a massage. So you see that there are different types of business activities, and also you make a choice about how you're going to prioritize them in terms of your effort and what you're leading with. So you could have different marketing initiatives as we laid out, driven by what they are. So this is basically a restatement of what we saw. And in this particular instance, let's focus on makeup. So we don't do makeup routinely, but since we get wedding parties referred to us, and we have people that are going to events like the prom, this is where makeup can come into play. And of course, most people who have been to cosmetology school have some level of skill when it comes to this. So you can then dig down deeper into this. So if I say I want to get referrals from a particular type of person, I'm going to get business from a particular kind of event, then we have to start to lay out what are we going to do that will target that. So now that you've got this bigger objective at the top, Then we get more granular. What are we going to do with the website? So I'm going to have a dedicated page that is designed to focus on makeup. And it says conversion, but really it's focused on makeup, and it's to get people to call to get an appointment to have their makeup done. We're going to do a bit of keyword research, perhaps, and we're going to find out what kinds of terms people are actually searching for online so that we can make sure that that type of language is in our website page. And then I'm also going to incorporate video because I want to feature an artist in action doing makeup on a person. So this is all going to go on the page. So this all creates that digital presence on your website that validates that this is a service that you have to offer. What's going on in email? Well, we have an email list perhaps that goes to all of our regulars. Let's make sure that we have an email campaign going to them, because our regulars have children that are getting married, they have prom season or quinceañeras coming up, and maybe I know what my timing is going to be based on when these events are happening. And then what's happening on social media. So again, here we're trying to get more granular about how we will achieve these objectives that we've laid out at the top, which is getting a wedding planner to us or getting business from prom season. So that's what we're trying to do, is just kind of to continue to get more granular as we move further down. And then you can lay this out from a calendared standpoint. We already talked about timing. We talked about the different channels that we're going to use. So here's our initiative, launching makeup. I'm going to go after wedding planners. Now, I might also have launch makeup and mothers because I have a segment of mothers, but right now we're going after the wedding planner segment. Here's what we're doing on the website for them. Here's what we're doing on email. Here's what we're doing on social media. Here's when we do this. And then this is a description, high level of what it is, but you can be even more granular than that in the document. So here's a full tactical plan that is not just digital. It could be a lot of different things. So even going to trade shows and conferences, events. So this is just typical channels or tactical approaches for marketing. And you choose the ones that you feel are best for you. So when we talk about who we target, we already kind of spoke about persona. For our segments, we talked about a couple of different ones: local community residents, corporate employees from those businesses that have moved into the neighborhood, event and wedding planners, and then of course this high school prom thing. It only happens once a year, but it's there. There are things that you can find out about them. And this is where, some market research comes in. So how do we understand who our targets are? Well, if I'm located in a particular area, I can know the demographics of that area. I can know things about the female residents of that area because my salon primarily serves women. Not to say that we won't serve men, but that's who normally comes in the door. So I know that's a ready audience for us. So I can find out through the census the average age of the resident in our neighborhood. I can find out their average household income, and I know that that's my bread and butter. Then I also may not know the income of corporate women 30 plus that I see walking around, but I'm going to make some educated guesses based on the types of companies that are there. There's a large accounting firm, there's a law firm, there's an engineering company. We know that they have disposable income, and we can kind of make a guess as even what an entry-level salary is for those kinds of roles. Wedding planners. Well, okay, I don't need to know the demographics necessarily of them, but I need to think about, well, where am I going to find out more about them? Obviously, there are lists, wedding shows, things like that. And you can segment based on how they present themselves. Are they high-end, medium-end, or are they budget? We don't really want to go after the budget because the budget, those people are not likely to refer a wedding party to us. But, we have some business like this and we want to get more. So this is how we go through this process of laying out, well, how much can I know about the people that I'm trying to go after? So in creating that person that we talked about, this persona, you go back over here, you can have a persona representing each one of these. This person's name, we'll see in a second. So there are a number of questions that you can answer about that. Who are they? Where do they live? What do they want to know? What do they not want? You may know from talking to your customers the kind of experience that they desire to have when they come into your business. You may know why they come to you. Well, is it convenience? Is it because all of their friends go there and everyone refers to you? Do they have a particular pain that they're trying to resolve? And I'm not talking about physical pain, but what are their frustrations? What are their obstacles? Why come in the first place? What do they hope to get out of it? And the other thing that you always want to keep an eye on is how they're hearing about us. How are they finding us? Whether it's advertising, social media, word of mouth, that's important. So here is an avatar for this salon. Let's say, based on the research that we did, we're finding out that she is a local resident. So what do we know about her? That she's more than likely a little older than 35. She owns a home, average household income, and that she's got 2 kids. That's something that maybe the census can tell us based on the county that we live in. We know what she is interested in finding out about us. If she's going to come to us, she needs to know, do we take appointments? Are we going to take her on time? Can you actually do a good job? Is it quiet and relaxing? And do you provide other services? So quiet and relaxing is nice because we said we wanted to be an oasis and a refuge. That's really nice. What does she not want? She doesn't want to wait. She doesn't want to pay for poor service. She doesn't want to be disturbed while she's relaxing. She's got this pain. She needs to look good all the time. And she doesn't have a lot of time to do it because she's got 2 kids at home and, work and family commitments. Why buy from us? Well, we're local, we're convenient. She knows our name, our brand, her friends go here. And what do we do for her? We are close by. We have the great atmosphere. We have skills. We are almost one-stop shopping. She doesn't have to go to the separate nail salon. She doesn't have to go to get a massage elsewhere. What's her gain? Obviously, she looks good, improving the confidence that she has for work and home. And we save her time. She's able to see her friends and relax. And we know that she's going to find us based a bit on her demographics, but also because, let's say we've asked a few of our customers, Facebook and Instagram is where she hangs out. And of course, if she's a current client, she gets our email. So what does this all mean? It's kind of important to understand this. So this could be why you have a no children policy in your salon. So the more you know about your client, the more you know what is going to be delighting them and what is going to be a detractor. So there might be other kinds of things that you might put in a persona. For example, if you're looking at a purchasing manager in a business, they may have some things that, they don't want to be embarrassed in front of their boss because they have recommended a bad product. So their credibility is very important to them. And so anybody that they bring in is an extension of who they are. Those are things that you will see in, a persona assessment. You can also see red flags. If you see, you could identify things in a persona where if they have these attributes, they're not your person. They look very much like your person. So here's the person who, they've got the right income, they're living in the right neighborhood. I own a steakhouse, they should be my client, but they're a vegan. Well, okay, I'm not gonna, if I knew that, I wouldn't market to them. So we want to do things. We want to have different activities because we're trying to reach this person. You can do things to ensure that you continue to keep her loyal to you and to keep people like her loyal to you. Because remember, it's not this one woman. She is representative of what we think is the bread and butter for the business, that local person that comes to the shop all the time. So you need a loyalty program, let's say, a referral program, holiday specials. All of these are things that are designed to support that bread and butter base that you need to have before you even go anyplace else to any other segment. So you can also then create, as part of your plan, a core messaging document. It's a source document or a positioning statement that has critical messages about each of your services. And the thing about this document is that this is not something that you hand to this person. This is something that you're using internally as part of your planning process. So you can pull content from it when you're doing social media posts. It's got all of your important facts, but again, it's not for direct use with customers. So when I work with folks and I do social media for them, I create a document like this, and there may be a lot of different things in it, but they are not things that you would ever pick up and say, oh, you're my customer, here, let me give you this. I just want you to know more about me. That's not what this is at all. This is really your communication that you feel is most relevant for them, and it's going to be communicated over a period of time to them. Now, what's driving your content too is a content calendar. So you saw that we laid out different initiatives based on where we were in the year or where key events were happening. This is, just one of the basic planning tools that you're going to use. So it's going to show what and when do I need to tell Serena relative to the initiatives that I need to complete. So seasonally, holidays, back to school, prom season, key events. And then, you may have other things that you're doing that are really driven by internal needs. So if I see that a particular service that I have is very profitable, and I want to do more of that and less of something else, I might start to promote that more to somebody like Serena. So just because you offer a service doesn't mean that it needs to have the same level of emphasis. You can de-emphasize services that are less profitable, and maybe overall they're profitable in the total mix of all of the offerings that you provide somebody in Serena's category, but you don't want to do 100% of, option B. You want to do more of option A, for example. So here's a sample framework showing how you lay out that content calendar, and you can actually use this to say, okay, here are my topics. This is what I'm going to talk about on social media. This is what I'm going to talk about on my blog. Here's when I'm going to send this email or this newsletter. And there may be some supporting activities that you need to do in order to make that happen. I need to segment my mail list to make sure that I know that I'm talking to the Serenas of the world. I need to make sure that I'm looking through and stopping promoting to non-responders. I mean, they may stay on the list, but I'm just not going to go after them because they're just not responding. So there are ways that you manage that type of thing. So we've spent some time on the, let's see. So we've spent some time really on the building blocks of the strategy, and then what the components of the strategy are. Now what we want to do is we want to focus on measuring success. So metrics are interesting because we always want to measure the ones that mean the most to me, to you. And sometimes that really depends on the stage of business that you're in and the specific initiatives that you've undertaken. And the reason why we focus here is because we're trying to understand how we measure up against the goals that we set. And it helps us to set goals that make sense. So different aspects of digital marketing have different types of metrics. This is a list of the metrics that you might think about, some of the metrics that you can think about for a website. The biggest ones are the visits and the amount of traffic that you get to your website. And of course, the traffic sources, if you can find that out. Are they coming from Facebook? Are they coming from a just general organic search and your website appeared in the results and somebody came to your website based on that? Then there are other metrics that have to do with performance, that have to do with what is happening with the customer. Your performance metrics will impact the customer visit. In other words, if it takes a long time for your web page to load, then people are going to wander off. Pages per session is about how many pages does a visitor actually visit when they come to your website. In general, we know that it's probably 2 or 3 pages, and that people don't read a website from start to finish like they read a book. That navigation is really important. And so you're not going to see them actually just click on all 8 pages of your website. Another metric that you might think about is time on page. And of course, that time on page increases if the page has more dense content versus a page that has very little content. Also, depending if there's a video on that page, then that might be a longer time on page. But this is an average 2 to 3 minutes when it comes to a page at the most. So you can get a lot of information, but again, the information that is valuable to you is what is most important. So device type, there is the ability to find out whether people are using a mobile phone versus a desktop. It's important because, quite frankly, we know that more and more people now are using their phone to access a website. And so if you happen to be at 100% phone, then you really want to pay attention to how your site looks like on, Samsung versus Apple, and on a tablet as well. So because there may be different interfaces or things that you've suppressed for your phone that will show up in a desktop just for speed purposes. So lots of different metrics for your website. There are different metrics for your social media. Obviously, the number of connections or followers that you have, the number of likes, the click-through rate, the amount of shares, the engagement rate. Really, ultimate objective of social media is to get engagement. And engagement is a like or a share, a comment. And that sometimes is difficult to obtain. So we know that organically our social media is challenged. Organic reach is limited. But what social media also does is if somebody is investigating you as a business and you have that social media there, it's really validation that you are who they think you are and that you know the things they hope you know, as opposed to going to check out somebody who has no social media and then it's like, well, I heard something, but I don't really see any secondary proof in a sense. So these are all, I would call them proof sources, whether you're on LinkedIn or whether you are on Facebook or Twitter. These are proof sources. This person is active in this particular subject area. They're not saying, oh, gee, that person only posted, once a day or 3 times a week versus, they should be posting 20 times a week. No, but they are looking for consistency and they're looking for presence. Obviously, email is another platform that you can use. And depending on the type of list you have, open rate and obviously click-through rate, those are the core metrics. That doesn't depend on the type of list that you have, but what we know is that a good open rate is 15 to 20%. A good click-through rate from your opened email to your website is 2.5%. So open rate and click-through rate are kind of your core metrics for email, but we are looking for how much traffic that email generates to your website. You can look at how many people are unsubscribing every time you send out an email, and you can look for how many people are actually signing up new to your website. To your newsletter. So I misspoke earlier. Open rate and click-through rate are really the metrics, but they will vary depending on the quality of your list. So there are folks who add absolutely everybody that they've ever met to their email list. Not everybody is your customer. Not everybody is your target audience. And so you have a very broad, sweeping list. You're going to have a lower open rate than somebody who has validated that the person actually could potentially at some point in time have a need for your services. So you can see that, you put them through a bit of a filter to get them on that list in the first place. People have different strategies. And, at some point, what happens is over time, you will see people who are just not responding. You can cleanse them from your list. These are folks that never open the email over the 12-month period, for example. Well, they're not going to open the email because they're not your target audience. And it's always hard to come to terms with that because we all like to know that we have a large email list. But do you want 5,000 people on your email list, or do you want 500 of the right people on your email list? So we like to go for the right people because, that's really going to drive our revenue. And when it comes to ads, So this is another platform or channel that you can go through. We're looking at the total conversions. Conversions on an ad are people who take the action that the ad is asking them to do, whether it's clicking through, whether it is clicking to call. We're looking for a sale, essentially. So there is a click-through rate on an ad, and it can vary by type of business. Overall, it's about 2% of the people that get exposed to an ad who will actually click on that ad. But then clicking through to take action is another cut of that data. There is something called a quality score. The quality score is how closely is what you see when you click on related to the words that made them click on it in the first place. So worst case scenario is you're advertising shoes, they click on the ad and you're a store, but it takes them to a page that has to do with shirts. Okay, that is going to get a poor quality score, and it's going to get a high bounce rate. People are going to leave immediately because I came here for one thing and I'm seeing something else. So in the end, though, the ultimate metric is sales, and that's what we have to look at. I mean, I did not cover financial metrics because this isn't a finance class. Obviously, you've got revenue, you've got your net income, you've got your, your cost of goods sold, all of that. But from a marketing perspective, I wanted to highlight the ones that are most important to us, but the ultimate one is sales. So there are situations where you will perhaps be getting the sales, but the idea is to understand what investments am I making that are really driving those sales. So that's why we start to wonder, okay, is email working for me? Is it my social media that's doing something for me? How is my website doing? If these things aren't performing up to even baseline levels, then you have opportunities to improve your sales. If you are perhaps, in a different mindset, you may say, well, maybe I've overinvested in a particular area and I need to cut back because it's not really driving the dial for me. So that's what we're really focused on here. The thing also has to do with budget. So we talked about the fact that at the beginning, you're having a budget for your marketing. And when you lay out your tactics, once you've identified your segments and you've laid out your tactics that will support the key initiatives by segment, you're going to run into this common situation, which is, well, gee, if I cost out everything that I plan to do, I can't do it all. And that is totally, totally okay and common. There's not a marketing person in this world or a business person in this world that can't spend more money if it's given to them on promoting their business. But we all have our limits. And so we basically prioritize these initiatives that we've laid out by the impact that they're going to have on our business. We're going to be thinking about what's going on within each channel, whether it is the website or your social media. You're going to prioritize across your channels. So which one am I going to emphasize? I think maybe I'll put more emphasis on my social media because that's going to drive visibility and that's going to help me engage. For example, you could make a decision like that. But then once you start prioritizing, you're going to start just basically adding it up. And when you reach your maximum that you've allocated, that's where you draw the line, and everything else below that doesn't happen, or it only happens if additional funds become available to do that. Perhaps you're doing better than you thought you would do. So maybe you're going to invest a bit further in the marketing area. But I just don't think I would worry if, well, gee, I've come up with all of these things that I can do. You are going to have to prioritize. You're going to have to make choices. So when it comes to the marketing budget, you almost take that same format that we laid out for, my communication strategy, my strategic initiatives. You put dollars behind each one of those. Some of those things don't cost, and some of those things do. In some instances, those things are going to cost actual dollars, and some of them are going to cost actual time. This is where I think I mentioned at the very beginning, oh, gee, I've got all these things to do, but I don't have the people to get them all done. So I have to pull back on my resources here and make sure that this is another way that you have to draw the line. So I think I took you through a very quick run of this, but we have talked about the role of the digital marketing plan. We've covered the key topics that are normally included in the plan and how important it is to know the competition, to try to test your assumptions around what you're thinking about your business. We talked about some of the building blocks of the plan, whether that is doing the competitive analysis, doing the market research, really understanding who your target audience is. We took you through how you might lay out a plan from an initiative down to the granular side of, okay, what actions are you going to take? And each of those actions has a cost associated with it. And then we covered the key metrics for each of the major digital marketing components, understanding that we're going to focus on the metrics that make the most sense for us. So I think with that, I'm going to open it up for questions and discussion. And we may be able to open mics, or you can put questions in the chat. I'm monitoring the chat. There is nothing new in there at this point in time. But if you have questions, this is a good time. So Tekoa?
Yes, I don't see any questions here.
Yeah, I'm just looking. I can't see. I'm trying to look and see.
So if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the Q&A or the chat, or if you would like, we can also unmute you so you can ask your question via audio. Whichever method works best for you, feel free to ask your question that way. We do have 30 more minutes, so we definitely have enough time to answer
time for questions. Let's see.
I see one question in the chat.
So this is an interesting question. For tote bags, what do you recommend for identifying my target audience? Well, I mean, that's a question I almost have to kind of reflect back to you. In other words, who did you think would be your target audience? You know, everybody uses tote bags. Are they, you need to think about, well, where did you envision those tote bags being used? Are they tote bags to go back and forth to the food store? Are they tote bags that are business people tote bags? You know, you've got to kind of decide yourself what the segment is. The segment then is going to help you identify your target audience. And then you may have different ways that you're differentiating your bags. Are they, obviously they sound like they're reusable tote bags. Are they green? Are they by, you know, earth friendly? And then, you know, that might say, okay, well, maybe you need to get involved in groups online, for example, that are that have that type of affinity. Or are they tote bags for people who like art because, you know, they got reprints of, you know, local artists' work on them. So that's, I think you've got to make a decision yourself there, because tote bags are something that everybody uses. The question is, who are you going to go after? So that's going to be based on how you envision your tote bag being used. It's actually, I was looking last night, I actually do knitting and crocheting, or I like to watch it. Let's just put it that way. Maybe I don't do it well, but there are some beautiful items out there, and you know, that you would consider buying as a finished item. And so, you know, that's a different segment from somebody who's looking for a leather, you know, a fine leather Coach bag, which is a tote bag. So I think that is a question that you can kind of noodle on and really understand how to dig further into that.
Do we have any more questions? Feel free to ask. Don't feel shy.
about trying to reach different segments, or one of the questions that we do get asked sometimes is how long does it take to create a marketing plan? And as I mentioned before, it's not something that in and of itself, it takes a long time to actually write. The idea or the thing is, though, that it may take a little while to find out some of the things that you might want to find out. And so that's why, as you are going about your business, if you have an idea of the kinds of questions that you would ask anybody who could potentially be your client or customer, you take that opportunity to ask them throughout the year. Yeah, the presentation is going to be available, and the recording is going to be available as well. Also, I believe that anybody who is in Essex County who has taken this course is able to have an hour of consulting at no charge for taking this course. Is that the case, Tacoma?
Yes, that's correct, Cecilia. Okay. Yes. So if you're in Essex County, if you're interested in a post webinar consultation with Cecilia, you can either raise your hand or type in the chat that you're interested, and I'll take note of your name and set that appointment up with you and Cecilia.
Or you can reach out after the fact. Another question that we often get asked about is just pricing in general. And, it's very hard to know what people are charging. And this is why sometimes it does make sense to talk to other people who have been in the market to buy your services, because they can tell you a little bit about, especially if you're in a non-threatening environment and somebody's willing to talk to you, you can ask them, well, what did you pay to have this done? And how did you feel about that price? I mean, you know what your costs are, and you know what you'd like your profitability to be. But you don't want to price on, I know it cost me 50 cents and I want my profitability to be 100%, so I'm going to make it $1. Especially if in the marketplace, that value is really at $5. Your price should reflect value and not a markup from your cost. So improving engagement on social media is a question that's just been asked. How do you improve your engagement on social media? Well, as part of your marketing plan, you need to lay out and incorporate time to be on social media. Obviously, routine posting is important, but depending on the type of social media you're talking about, being active and visible on social media is also important. So whether you are following other people who do what you do and commenting and inviting them to comment on your content, are you involved in groups or affinity groups related to the types of services that you provide and contributing in those groups and bringing people back? So engagement, as I said, is like the holy grail, but organic engagement like that can be very difficult to get. But you have to almost be there and respond. If somebody likes or not likes, but if somebody comments, you want to comment back or thank them, you want to be present. So while engagement is key, again, it still is again, proof of that you are a valid entry into the marketplace by having a social media presence in the first place. And people can't see necessarily how much engagement you get. They basically just see that you are active. Another way to improve engagement is to extend your reach. And so if we're talking about a tool like Facebook or a platform like Facebook, you can do things like boosting certain posts so that it reaches beyond the traditional audience that Facebook is going to show your post to. So the concept here is that all of the social media platforms have algorithms that decide what a visitor is going to see. So it is always from the point of view of the visitor. It is never from your point of view. So for example, I would think, oh, gee, I'm going to post on my page on Facebook or even on LinkedIn, and I would just expect that 100% of the people who follow me will see that. That is not the case. Why? Because Facebook is looking at it from the point of view of Ann Smith came on Facebook today. She likes to see these kinds of things. I'm going to show her these kinds of things. If your post is not these kinds of things, then you can best believe that it will be way down on the list of things that this woman will see. Now, she might eventually see it if she stays on Facebook forever, but people do have a limited amount of time. People are on Facebook a couple of times a day, and they're on it fairly intensively, 20 or 30 minutes a pop, sometimes an hour. But still, there's a lot of content on Facebook. So what people do is they'll say, all right, I would like for you to show my post to people in this particular region who have these particular interests. And I'm just going to put a little bit of funding behind that to make that happen. You can do that for relatively low cost, and you do that strategically. You do that with posts that might spark more interest. Try to do that with something that has movement or video in it. And you need to do it routinely so that people will see that and interact with it. So that's another way that people, you kind of have to pay. These social media platforms are becoming more pay to play every day. The limited organic reach would be just you posted it there and people saw it in their feed and you did nothing special to make that happen. That has been declining over the past 6 or 7 years, and it's quite small. So you could have on your page, you could have 400 people following you, but maybe only 10 people see your content. Now, there are things that you can do. You can tell people, okay, make sure that when you like my page, you also click the option to prioritize my content, but that's a second step that people are less likely to take. So engagement requires ongoing activity on your part. It's not just you set it out there and they click on it. You need to be visible and present and commenting as soon as somebody comments on your thing. And then there is that pay to play strategy that people often use. There are services out there, and I don't know what they are because we don't use them, where you can buy likes and things like that, but they are unethical, and some of them can get you thrown off of the platforms. And that's the challenge with social media in the first place, that social media is not something that you own. You don't make the rules, and so you've got to follow the rules. The only thing that you own is your email content, and you own your website or your website content. So other questions? Just trying to think about other questions that people have asked in the past. So timing. I added in some information about how to talk to people who are not your customer, because I think that is a challenge. It's just kind of hard if somebody is in a certain role in a company. Then here's where you might have to use your LinkedIn skills to kind of network around and find people like that. And if they're one connection away, you can ask for an introduction, or sorry, 2 connections away, you can ask for an introduction. And you can, it's basically asking a favor, and you may have to do it several times before somebody says yes. But you should do it a number of times if you can, just to get to those people that you don't run across in the average day. So if you go to the Chamber of Commerce networking meeting, you're probably not going to run into that type of person, but you can find them on LinkedIn, and it's just well worth having that conversation. You just never know what you're going to hear, and they may tell you things that help inform your understanding of what the buying process is like. Are there certain platforms that I recommend for creating content for Instagram or Facebook? Well, I don't have, there are a couple of things. You can use management tools, like I use Hootsuite for my client base, but there are other tools lately or whatever, and they allow you essentially to create and schedule content in one place and then have it flow out to all of the social media platforms that are hooked in with it. So with Hootsuite, for example, I can schedule that content and have it go out for LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. I believe they do Pinterest and Instagram. Did I mention that? So yeah, Hootsuite, but it's one word. So HOOTSUITE. And as soon as you Google that, or if you Google it, you're going to see all their competitors. The other tool that I use very much is Canva, C-A-N-V-A, and canva.com allows me to create, some graphics, because one of the challenges that you'll get is that the sizing for the different social media platforms and the image posts can be very different. And so if you have something sized for Pinterest, it doesn't look as right. And so if you try to use it on Instagram, so what you do is you can change the sizing easily within Canva. Now, Hootsuite does allow you to make also some edits as well, but Canva is a great tool. Free Canva is very good. You can upgrade for a very small amount of money and get access to all things that you might like, stock video, some stock images. They're not the best stock images, but they're there and you can do things with them creatively. So, and understanding those kinds of tools can help you when it comes to understanding, what your resource limitations are. So we talked about, your staffing, and maybe you don't have a person who can do this full time, but if you can use a tool like that, you might be able to hit a couple of those social media platforms. No problem. So let's see, we're at about 2:16 now, but I just don't want to leave anybody hanging.
Yeah, I don't think we have any more questions, Cecilia.
All right.
Let's see. I'm going through the chat right now.
But I really must have been going a mile a minute. I don't know, you should have said, slow down, Cecilia. Slow down. I get way too excited about this.
Okay, so if we have no more questions, I just want to say thank you to Cecilia for your presentation and for your time today. And again, if you're in Essex County, you have a question from Diana. Would you like to answer that, Cecilia?
Yeah, so is there a formula when writing a caption and hashtagging? Diana, can you unmute Diana? Maybe she can tell me exactly what she means.
Okay, I'm unmuting her now.
Diana, are you there?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. My question really has to do with content and drawing people to the Instagram pages.
Mm-hmm.
Is there, when writing the captions, because I'm trying to create content for them to come to the online e-commerce store that we have, is there a particular formula when writing sentences describing the pictures or the images that will pull people to the page through searches, or are there certain ways of hashtagging those images when they do searches for certain interests that will optimize exposure to the Instagram page?
Well, I think the thing about this is, first of all, you probably have done some level of keyword research to understand what terms people are using to search for you, mm-hmm. or search for those particular products. The other aspect is then doing hashtagging research. So if you're in Instagram, you know that you can put in hashtags and see the size or the number of searches that are being done for that hashtag.
Right.
The more popular hashtags are, in the millions, the more detailed hashtags that are kind of similar to long tail keywords and keyword research, they would have smaller, but they're very specific. So you need to have a mix of both. If you go for all large hashtags, think about hashtags as I posted it, I put it on the hashtag list, and the next person who posted right after me using that hashtag has knocked me off the top of the list. So that means that you fall really far down in the stream really, really fast. You're only number one for seconds. Versus if you have a longer hashtag or a hashtag that has fewer, less activity, you're going to stay at the top of the page longer. So it's kind of this strategic mix between the two. So if there's a very popular high volume hashtag, yeah, put it there, but understand that it's going to last for a very short period of time versus a more detailed hashtag where your item can be at the top of the page longer.
Okay.
The other part of hashtag research is to make sure that you go and look at what comes up for those hashtags, because you may think that the hashtag is totally relevant, but when you go there, you'll find that it's an outlier. Another piece to this hashtag research is to go to your competitors and see what they're using as hashtags. You may find out that they've done a very non-systematic job of it and they've got, you know, silly hashtags, but you may discover other hashtags that you want to use. There's a limit to the number of hashtags that you can use on Instagram. I think it's 20, but I think that if you post, you can actually stick more hashtags in the comments if you do it right away.
Mhm.
So you can try that and see what works with that. But hashtags, but I'm sorry, Instagram is very much like Facebook. You may have to boost your posts. You may have to do a little bit of promotion because, again, what's driving the organic aspect of this is what people want to see, not what you want them to see.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Cool. Well, I'm glad you got that question in before it was too late.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I guess we're done.
Yes, I think we are. So thank you for the last question, Diana, and thank you, Cecilia, again. So if any of you are in Essex County and you're interested in the one-on-one post-webinar counseling with Cecilia, feel free to click on the raise hand button on your screen. And again, I'll take note of your name and create that appointment with you. Or you can just type in the chat that you're interested in that. Again, we do service those in Essex County. So for those of you that are not in Essex County, you can still request counseling on our website, but you will be referred to your local SBDC office.
Great. Well, listen, everybody have a great day. And we will see you the next time.
Okay, so at this time, I just want to refer everyone to the chat. Give me one moment just to pull the chat feature up. So there I will be posting some of our upcoming webinars and workshops, as well as the link to request counseling and our Eventbrite page where you can view all of our workshops and webinars as well. So directly after this webinar, we are hosting another one at 3 p.m. called Taking Control of Your Company Finances. So if you're interested in how to understand your business cash flow, you can directly register for that webinar using the chat message I just posted. And the link to that webinar will be the first webinar link in the chat. And this year we are hosting many other webinars and topics such as finances, access to capital, marketing and branding, e-commerce, credit counseling, cybersecurity, government contracting, state certifications, human resources, and so much more. So you can feel free to sign up for these webinars and workshops via our website or our Eventbrite page, and you will definitely find a webinar or workshop that best fits your business needs. Also, I just want to remind you all that you will be receiving a video replay as well as the presentation slides within 48 to 72 hours. So you can have all the information and you can apply the strategies and techniques to your business. After the webinar is ended in the browser, you will see a survey pop up. That survey will help us to adjust our presentations in the future, as well as give us some information on the type of assistance you may be needing for your business. So if you have a minute or two to complete that, your feedback is very much appreciated. And on that note, we will now end this webinar. I want to say thank you again to Cecilia for sharing your expertise with us. And thank you to all of our attendees for taking the time out to attend, participate, and ask your question in today's webinar. And we look forward to seeing you all at our future webinars and workshops. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks very much, Dakoa.
Thank you, Cecilia.